words of our Lord Sri Aurobindo. Our Lord Sri Aurobindo says, be sure that the Divine Mother will always be with you to carry you upon the path. Difficulties come and difficulties go, but she being with you, the victory is sure. With always our love and blessings, says our Lord Sri Aurobindo. Sri Aurobindo's Savitri, Book 5, The Book of Love, Canto 2, Satyavan, page 396. Then, trembling with the mystic shock, her heart moved in her breast and cried out like a bird who hears his mate upon a neighboring bough, whose trembling fast, wheels largely stumbling, sees. The chariot stood like an arrested wind, and Satyavan looked out from his soul's doors and felt the enchantment of her liquid voice fill his youth's purple ambience and endured the haunting miracle of a perfect face. Mastered by the honey of a strange flower mouth, drawn to soul spaces opening round a brow, he turned to the vision like a seed to the moon, and suffered a dream of beauty and of change, discovered the aureole around a mortal's head, adored a new divinity in things. His self-bound nature foundered as in fire. His life was taken into another's life. The splendid, lonely idols of his brain fell prostrate from their bright sufficiencies as at the touch of a new infinite, to worship a Godhead greater than their own. An unknown, imperious force drew him to her. Marveling, he came across the golden sward. Gaze met close gaze and clung in sight's embrace. A visage was there, noble and great and calm, as if encircled by a halo of thought. A span, an arch of mediating light, as though some secret nimbus half was seen. Her inner vision still remembering, knew a forehead that wore the crown of all her past, two eyes, her constant and eternal stars, comrade and sovereign eyes that claimed her soul, lids known through many lives, large frames of love. He met in her, regard his future's gaze, a promise and a presence and a fire, saw an embodiment of aeonic dreams, a mystery of the rapture for which all yearns in this world of brief morality, made in material shape his own. Words of our Divine Mother, taken from the compilations of our Divine Mother book, The sunlit path, selections from conversations with our Divine Mother, a mission to fulfill is the subtopic. Our Divine Mother says each one has a great responsibility. One is born on earth to fulfill a special mission. Only the psychic being must naturally have reached a certain degree of development. Otherwise, one might say that the whole earth has the responsibility. The more conscious and individualized one becomes, the more one ought to have the sense of responsibility. But what happens at a given moment is this: one begins to think that one is not here without reason, without purpose. One suddenly realizes that one is here because one has something to do, and this is not something egoistic. This seems to me, says our Divine Mother, the most logical way of entering upon the path, all of a sudden to realize. Since I am here, it means that I have a mission to fulfill. Since I have been endowed with a consciousness, it means that I have something to do with that consciousness. But what is it? Our Divine Mother says, it seems to me that normally this is the first question one should ask oneself. Why am I here? A Divine Mother says, I have seen this in children, even in children of 5 or 6, asking, why am I here? Why am I alive? And then to search with whatever consciousness one has, with a tiny little bit of consciousness, saying, why am I here? For what reason? This seems to me, says our Divine Mother, to be the usual starting point. Question, why am I here? Our Divine Mother says, to find out what truly one is, to find out why one is on earth, what the purpose of physical existence is, the purpose of this presence on earth, this formation, this existence, the vast majority of people live without asking this even once. Only a small elite ask themselves this question with any interest, and even fewer begin working to get the answer. Because unless one is fortunate enough to come across someone who knows, it is not such an easy thing to discover. Our Divine Mother says one lives from day to day, the events of each day. When one is very young, one thinks about playing, about eating, and a little later about learning, and after that, one thinks about all the affairs of life. But to place this problem before oneself, to confront this problem and ask oneself, but why, after all, am I here? How many do that? There are people, says our Divine Mother, to whom this idea comes only when they are facing a catastrophe, when they see someone whom they love dying, or when they find themselves in particularly painful and difficult circumstances. Then they reflect on them if they are intelligent enough, and they ask, but really, what is this tragedy we are living? What is the use of it, and what is its goal? And only at that moment, says our Divine Mother, does one begin the search to know. Next subtopic, a need to know. Our Divine Mother says, I believe more in the power of atmosphere, example, than in a rigorous teaching. I rely more on something awakening in the being through contagion rather than more methodical, disciplined effort. Perhaps, says our Divine Mother, after all, something is being prepared and one day it will spring up to the surface. This is what I hope for. One day you will tell yourself, just think, I have been here so long, I could have learned so much, done so much, and I never even thought about it. only casually now and then one day, well, on that one day, just imagine you're suddenly going to wake up to something you never noticed before, something deep inside you which thirsts for truth, thirsts for transformation, and is ready to make the effort needed to realize it. Our Divine Mother says, on that day, you will go very fast. You will move forward with giant strides. Perhaps you will suddenly feel an irresistible need not to live in unconsciousness, in ignorance, in a state where you do things without knowing why, where you feel things without understanding why, where you have contradictory impulses, where you understand nothing about anything and you live only by habit, routine reaction, you take life easy. And one day you are no longer satisfied with that. Our Divine Mother says it depends for each one, it is different. Most often, it is the need to know, to understand. For some, it is the need to do what ought to be done as it should be done. For others, it's a vague feeling that behind this life, so conscious and useless, so devoid of meaning, there is something to discover that is worth living for. That there is a reality, a truth behind these falsehoods and illusions. Our Divine Mother says, suddenly one feels that everything one does, everything one sees has no meaning, no purpose, but that there is something which has a meaning, that ultimately one is here on earth for something, that all this, all these moments, all this restlessness, all this wastage of strength and energy, all this must have a purpose, an aim, and that this uneasiness one feels in oneself, this lack of satisfaction, this need, this thirst for something else must lead us something else or somewhere else. And one day, says our Divine Mother, you ask yourself, but then why is one born? Why does one die? Why does one suffer? Why does one act? You no longer live like a little machine, barely half conscious. You want to feel truly, you want to act truly, you want to know truly. Then, in ordinary life, one looks for books, one looks for people who knows a little more than oneself. One starts to look for someone who can answer these questions and lift the veil of ignorance. Here it is very simple. You have only to do things you do every day, but to do them with a purpose. You do everything you do, but a question inside you asks, why? And then, if you ask the question, you receive the answer. Why? Because we do not want life as it is anymore. Because we don't want falsehood and ignorance anymore. Because we don't want suffering and unconsciousness anymore. Because we don't want disorder and ill will anymore. Because Sri Aurobindo has come to tell us. It is not necessary to leave the earth to find the truth. It is not necessary to leave life to find one's soul. It is not necessary to abandon the world or have limited beliefs or to enter into relation with the divine. The divine is everywhere, in everything, and if he is hidden, it is because we don't take the trouble to find out. Our Divine Mother says we can simply, by a sincere aspiration, open a sealed door in us and find that something which will change the whole meaning of our life, answer all our questions, solve all our problems, and lead us to perfection we aspire for without knowing it, to that reality which alone can satisfy us and give us lasting joy, balance, strength, life. All this you have heard many times. You heard it. Oh, there are even some here who are here to ask to use it. For them, it seems to be the same thing as drinking a glass of water or opening a window to let in a sunlight. Our Divine Mother says, we have tried a little, but now we are going to try seriously. The starting point is to want it, truly to want it, to need it. The next step is to think of this above all. A day comes very quickly when one can think of nothing else. This is the only thing that matters. And then, says our Divine Mother, one formulates one's aspiration, one lets the true prayer spring up from one's heart, the prayer that expresses the sincerity of the need. And then, well, we will see what happens. Something will happen, something surely will happen. For each one, it will take a different form, says our Divine Mother. Next subtopic, something called yoga. Our Divine Mother says there are countries, people who know vaguely that there is something called yoga. They take it up with the idea that they will become superior to others, they will acquire greater powers than others, and then they will be able to dominate others. This is the worst reason, the most selfish reason, the one that leads to the most harmful consequences. Our Divine Mother says, others who are deeply troubled, who have a very great difficult life, who have worries, sorrows, many cares, say, oh, I am going to find something that will give me peace, quietness, and I'll be able to get a little rest. And they rush into yoga thinking that they are going to be completely happy and satisfied. Unfortunately, it is not like that. When you begin yoga, especially integral yoga for reasons of this kind, you're sure to meet greater difficulties on the way. And then there is the great virtue in men's eyes, philanthropy, love of humanity. So many people say, I am going to do yoga to serve humanity, to make those who are unhappy happy, to organize the world in the happiest way for everybody. I say, this is not enough, says our Divine Mother. Next subtopic, motives for yoga. Our Divine Mother says, why do you want the yoga for? Is it to get power? To attain peace, calm? To serve humanity? None of these motives is sufficient to show that you are meant for the path. Our Divine Mother says, the question you are to answer is this: do you want integral yoga for the sake of divine? Is the divine the supreme fact of your life? So much so that it is simply impossible for you to do without it? Do you feel that the very raison d'etre is the divine, and without it there is no meaning in this existence? If so, then only can it be said that you have a call for the path. A Divine Mother says this is the first thing necessary, aspiration for the divine. The next thing you have to do is to tend to keep it always alert, awake, and living. And for that, what is required is concentration. Concentration upon the divine with a view to have an integral and absolute consecration to its will and purpose. Our Divine Mother says, concentration in the heart, enter into it. Go within, deep and far as you can. Gather all the strings of your consciousness that are spread abroad, roll them up, take a plunge and sink down. A fire is burning there in the deep quietude of the heart. It is the divine. It is the divinity in you, your true being. Hear to his voice, follow its dictates, says our Divine Mother. Prayers and Meditations, August 25th, 1914. O Lord, let thy will be done, thy work be accomplished. Fortify our devotion, increase our surrender, give us light upon the path. We erect thee within us as our supreme master, that thou may become supreme master of all the earth. Our speech is still ignorant, enlighten it. Our aspiration is still imperfect, purify it. Our action is still powerless, make it effective. O Lord, the earth groans and suffers. Chaos has made this world its abode. The darkness is so deep that thou alone can dispel it. Come, manifest thyself, that thy work may be accomplished.